if something is characteristic for traveling in 2020 is like you buy 18 flight tickets and you use 3 maybe. Hello internet, welcome to Lex Universe. So, are you wondering why I'm sitting on the floor wearing this nonsense on my face? Well, today we're talking about traveling during pandemic and why I'm sitting on the... the world went completely crazy, so why are you worried about me sitting on the floor? So, yes, let's talk about traveling during COVID-19 pandemic. And I will not be in this. So, what I actually want to talk about in this video, there are several things. First, how it is to actually travel during these times. Then I would like to address some changes that I have noticed in traveling in general, and that will bring me to the final point of this video, and that's how will traveling change in general in the future, and are we watching the end of travel? Well, stay tuned to find out. So if you're following me regularly, then you know that I have already visited a few places since the end of the lockdown here in Czech Republic and in Europe in general. I'm not a doctor, I will not spill any of my opinions about this virus on you. It doesn't really matter because what I think it's not important. Yeah, so that's kind of my first point. I'm traveling. A lot of you may think it's not safe. A lot of others may think it is safe. I mean, I just do it because I don't believe that the world should go to a lockdown for 2 years and wait it out. I mean, what's the point of living then? But with that out of the way, I wanted to address the changes that you may encounter while traveling during this time. I will divide these into what I call short-term changes and long-term changes. But before I do that, I need to address one thing, and that's all of that I will be saying is kind of Eurocentric. Because when you look at traveling during 2020 or during summer 2020, you kind of have to divide it geographically, because right now, if you are in Europe, then you know that most of the borders within the Schengen area and within the European Union are kind of open with some conditions. It's not as easy as it used to be, but they're generally open. But if you look further than that, then you realize that most of the countries have actually still closed borders, at least for the general public. So that's kind of a thing that you need to understand. So there has been quite a significant drop in flights when you compare it to the last year, and that's kind of understandable because the borders are still kind of closed. A lot of these travel routes that have been renewed are actually here in Europe, because you have to understand that the European Union on the Schengen area kind of operates as a single country. Well, to a certain degree, it's really complicated. You can check out my video about Schengen borders, but what I meant to say is traveling within Europe, when you compare it to the rest of the world, is quite easy at the moment. The title of one of the largest airlines in Europe currently belongs probably to Ryanair, because they're just flying these short-haul flights all around Europe, and they're kind of profitable actually, because they are cheap and people got sick of staying at home. So right now the traveling within Europe is kind of not where it was, but it has improved. You can say pretty much the same thing about internal travel in China, possibly somehow even in the United States, but where this manifested itself the most are intercontinental flights or long-haul flights in general. So right now there's still this ban on traveling across the Atlantic. You cannot, I mean, unless you are US or Canadian citizen, you cannot enter either of those countries. It generally works the other way around, so Americans gonna go to Europe with some exceptions. So and you can say the same thing about other countries. Like almost no countries in Asia have open borders for citizens, also again with some exceptions. So traveling long haul is kind of problematic at the moment. some of the major airlines like Emirates or Qatar are actually renewing a lot of these flights, but I actually wasn't able to find out who is flying these flights, because I would like to hop on a plane and fly through Dubai to some I don't know, exotic island, but I mean, it's not possible. I cannot get the permit to enter those countries. So I really don't understand who's flying these flights. But anyway, the funny thing is, I mean, that's not funny. It's really depressing. But I was supposed to fly to Ukraine in a few days, but actually Ukraine closed the borders for foreigners completely, so I cannot fly. But Wizard didn't cancel my flight, so today they actually like send me the offer if I want to buy some priority boarding, and I mean like yeah, sure, I want to buy it. I cannot fly there, you know. If you want to travel in 2020, you kind of have to accept that it is not as reliable as it used to be. You kind of have to get used to things changing. The conditions change very rapidly. Hungary has declared that they will not allow foreigners into their country for 1 month. They just renounced it out of the blue, and you just have to accept it. You have to make some adjustments to your travel plans. I mean, if something is characteristic for traveling in 2020, is like you buy 18 flight tickets and you use 3 maybe. So it's still better than in spring, but I mean I have so many plane vouchers that I can use them as a wallpaper in my apartment. I can see the glass half full rather than half empty, so let's accept the reality and move on. So like I said, you have to accept a lot of turbulent conditions, changes, cancellations. That's kind of a thing. It was the same in spring, it's still going on because like no one is able to predict anything. So if you're lucky enough to be able to travel again, now what should you expect? So I will mostly talk about aviation, because I think that's the most common way of traveling, but you also should know that bus transportation and train transportation has kind of have this resurgence now, and a lot of people think that they are safer than planes for some reason. I don't know, it's just you are in the box with lots of strangers for a very long time, so I'm not sure how bus is any safer than a plane, but I don't know, people are stupid. First thing that will just burn into your brain is everybody is wearing a face mask while on plane, and usually also on the airport and like basically everywhere. that's I know it's like kind of understandable that I have to mention it, but every time I fly, they tell you that if there is an oxygen mask that falls on you in the case of the lower cabin pressure, you have to remove your face mask before you add this on your face. It's kind of funny that you have to say to people, but I guess not many people will think of it. A lot of airlines have stopped their flight service. Some of them stopped them completely. Some of them just stop serving warm dishes. You just have this pre-packed box with a sandwich and some drink. I don't know. You know, it's different in every airline, but they're just trying to limit the contact between the cabin crew and the passengers as much as they can. I flew, for example, Ryanair. They do allow you to use the bathroom if you need, but actually the fasten the seatbelt sign was on the whole time, so they're basically trying to avoid people stacking up next to the toilets and stuff like that. But I have actually found out that if you ask a cabin crew, you just can go to the toilet. They just don't want people to be all in the same place. While I think that the mask will remain as part of your cabin kit while you're traveling by plane, I think that many of the other things, like the warm dishes and stuff, I think there will be very limited time frame for that. Also, one of the things that kind of became popular among airlines and also among many countries is the mandatory COVID-19 negative test, which you have to have if you want to travel somewhere. And the thing about this is it's actually quite expensive, you know. I think that the main purpose of these tests is actually to stop people from traveling, and I think it's kind of working in a way. Anyway, I got tested a few times already, so it's something that's it's not very pleasant, by the way, but survivable. And I guess, you know, if you want to travel, then you will do it anyway, but it sucks. For example, when you travel by Qatar, you have to also have this plastic shield. I'm not sure if you have noticed it, but United has actually declared a few days ago that they will forever stop requiring fee for changes in the flight, which is something that's actually emerged in many airlines. In most of them it's temporary, but it's something that they absolutely necessarily needed, because people don't want to spend hundreds or thousands of dollars for the flight ticket they will not be able to use later. I think that's a kind of a good thing. It gives you more flexibility, and I think this will stuck for some time because people will get used to it. Maybe that's something good to the future. Most of the airlines have actually started accepting and preferring online and automatic check-in, which is also kind of cool. The prices have dropped a little bit right now. The reason for that is obvious. Not so many people are willing to fly or travel somewhere at this moment, so they need to somehow get the customers back. But unfortunately, I believe that once this settles a little bit, and if this crisis doesn't end really soon, which it probably won't, then the prices will rise, and they will be eventually higher than used to be prior to 2020. I think that's a reality that we'll have to face somehow. Every country has a list of other countries where you can travel without any restrictions. So this is kind of a thing that you have to keep in mind when you book your flight tickets today. Not only your visa requirements or something like that, but also what are the conditions of entry regarding to the pandemic. Which brings me to the next point. Just don't travel somewhere where you don't want to end up in the hospital. So, I mean, and no disrespect to any countries, but there are definitely countries where I don't want to end up in a hospital because they just don't have the best reputation, you know? So, I mean, yes, let's be honest. This virus is really not that dangerous for most of you who watch me. But you never know. It can get worse. You can have some hidden cancer or something. You don't want to end up in a hospital somewhere in the Central African Republic, I guess. I mean, I don't. If you do, then good for you. But really, just don't travel somewhere where you don't want to end up in a hospital. It's very good advice. Now the question is, what's the future of travel? As you know, there is the international space race, vaccine race. Have you noticed that this race for developing the vaccine is like the new version of the space race from the 60s? I love when history repeats itself. So there are lots of scientists that are working for a vaccine for this disease and also for a cure. So that will definitely be some kind of a solution. It's also possible that people will just simply stop caring and things will get back to some kind of a normal. When we look on a more long-term effects, there will be some. As you may have noticed, these restrictions and these measures taken against this virus have caused a lot of problems. They have caused a giant economic crisis that is quite unprecedented, and at least in our lifetimes. And honestly, this will have effect on traveling, of course. When you have less money, then you spend less and you travel less. And when you travel less, there is not such a high demand and the offer gets adjusted. So I think we are realistically looking at some decrease of the number of flights. I don't think it will be really dramatic, but I'm not a prophet, so who knows. With that, I guess the prices will rise. I don't think it will be astronomical, but I think eventually they will be, I don't know, 50-40% higher than it used to be before. I think it's a realistic, educated guess. But hopefully I'm right. Hopefully they will be this low all the time, but you know, we're not living in a paradise. And let's be realistic. So I guess that wasn't very positive. Or I mean, was it? I think it was. when we look at it, the future is still there. We're not dying. We're not dead. At least those of us who are alive. And yeah, the tomorrow comes. Are you ready for it? So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you found it interesting. If you did, smash that like button, give me a subscribe, check out my other social media, and see you in the next video. Have a beautiful day.